Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Season 4, Episode 2, The Moons of Thalos 3. Now, coming off of the premiere, I was pretty curious what they were going to be doing with this episode because they introduced a lot. We got the main villain in the last episode. We got, of course, Earth, new planets and stuff. We have time travel because they went back in time 6 months. And now the whole mission is, let's stop the Triceratons before they even get to Earth. And then this episode kind of diverted from that. There was no, main villain. We did see the Triceratons, which were actually missing, aside from the new intro that we got in the last episode. They were completely missing last time. It was just introductions to, how this season's going to go, big arcs, and, introducing everything. So, we got kind of a touch of the Triceratons. They still weren't that big of a deal in the episode, not just yet. So, we kind of come across them as oh, they're the Triceratons, holy crap, we just ran right into them. And then it goes into, we're crash landing, because for whatever reason, the Triceratons hate Professor Fugitoid. It was something where he wanted them to call him, it was either Professor or Doctor, I can't remember which one he was, specific about. But they hate him for some reason, so I'm looking forward to getting that answer, because they were like, shoot him down. I'm assuming it's because he worked with the Utroms, which they mentioned in the premiere. I believe it was in the premiere that they mentioned that, which I totally forgot to talk about in that review. But he mentioned that, he worked with the Utroms, and so I'm assuming that's what it was. It's oh, Krang, it doesn't matter what type of Krang, Krang supporters, Krang. That's all there is to it. So they get shot down. They crash into the salamander species. I don't know exactly what they called them, this specific species, but that introduces us to two new characters, one of which I knew before. The commander, who Mikey went with the most basic name he could have, was Sal Commander, but I do kind of like that, and I thought it was funny. But we get introduced to him. I loved his design because it was kind of gross, because I didn't realize this until they were I think it was during the action scenes, but his entire, I guess his left half is pretty much destroyed. I thought it was just his face at first, which that in itself, I was that's kind of gross, because I always think it's a little gross when they have stuff's ripped open, but you can see the tendons, there's one lone tendon attached to keep the mouth working. So I was oh, that's kind of gross. And he has the fake robot eye. And then during the action scene, I was oh, you can actually see inside of him, because something happened to his entire half of his body. And even his tail was fake, because he has a spike ball at the end of his tail. So even his tail was actually robotic in this episode. And I don't know if that's going to really come up or anything like that later in the season. But I love that design. I was it's kind of gross. And then I was oh man, he's really, really messed up. He was in some insane battle, probably with the Triceratons. And he was so messed up, he's almost half robotic. It seemed his arm was real. But it was his face, his tail, and basically his midsection really, really messed up. So I like the design. I was pretty interested by his character too, because he mentioned how he had respect for the team, where it was oh, they crash landed, but they're going forward, and he had respect. And his first idea was maybe we shouldn't instantly just destroy them. We should actually consider certain things, because I've gained instantly gained a new level of respect for these creatures. And then the other character, who started off just seeming kind of mean, and it didn't really dawn on me when it first happened, when they first showed him. I wasn't even thinking about it. And then they're going through, and when they have the first fight scene and Raph gets knocked down, and he looks over, as soon as he did that, he was she hit me really hard. I was that's Mona Lisa. As soon as he did, I was that's her. It didn't even remotely occur to me, because I don't know Mona Lisa too well. I only recently found out about her, probably this year, to be totally honest. I don't remember a ton of the stuff from the 2003 series. I never finished the really old 80s series, because I have 3 episodes on videotape. So I don't really know a ton of the characters. There's some characters I can remember, I remember that from either the game on Super Nintendo, the Turtles in Time game, or somehow they were within those 3 episodes. Baxter Stockman, I never forgot him from the old cartoon, because that's one of the episodes I had, and I loved him in that old show. He was only in there for 2 episodes, but when Baxter Stockman was introduced in the old 80s cartoon, he was super badass. He was the nerdy doctor, and then when he became like basically he's the Fly. When he became the Fly, he was like, even Shredder was like afraid of him. He like mentally he was able to beat him, so he was like, oh, we should work together. The Turtles did this, not me. But he was super powerful, and even Shredder was trying to stop him because he was too strong to beat. So some stuff I do remember, but I didn't get to like Mona Lisa, and I liked her in this episode. I loved the fact that, for one, it was weird, but at the same time I kind of loved it. The fact that Raph and Mona Lisa basically got together, and by the end of this one episode, it was like, man, Raph clearly knows what he's doing. But it was so simple. It was like she knocked him down, he kind of fell for her, and then, the whole time he's just like, all right, let's, we should work together. And then, of course, when she shot the ice and she didn't shoot him, I thought the same thing as the commander did. It was like, it's interesting that you shot the ice and, not the stranger. And she was about to say, like, oh, it's, it doesn't matter what I did, I just got rid of him. But it was obvious there was something, even in that one scene. And just by the end, they end up kissing. I was like, that's actually kind of cool, because it doesn't... I'm assuming the reason they did that so quickly was because they aren't really going to have them in too many episodes, like Mona Lisa and the Commander. So, kind of fast-track through that relationship, and then they'll actually form a real relationship, like, later on, but they're obviously attracted to each other very quickly, and it kind of helps things out once they, bring the characters back, and it's like, oh, this is Earth, and stuff like that. It kind of just expedites the process and stuff, so... I kind of like that. I liked her character for sure, because they could both fight, and she even had a sword, which I thought was really awesome. And the action in this was really insane to me, because it's kind of like when they introduce the footbots, which always the best. Like, as soon as they do that, that's when you know it's about to get epic, because they can't kill any humans off. So as soon as they introduce it, and I remember when that first happened, it was like, oh, they're doing like the footbots. We're about to get some awesome action scenes, and ever since then we have, because they can stab and slice whatever, because it's just a bunch of robots. And in this, technically not the same. It was almost like just killing a bunch of animals, but they're like alien rock style creatures. So it was almost like it was nothing, but they were like decapitating those things. They like shot one in the face, I think. I think Leo had... that's another thing. We got to see a lot of the new weapons this episode, because in the premiere... it was mostly, like, in the opening. Like, that was pretty much it. But in this episode, like, everyone had new weapons. Which didn't... I feel like that was something that I didn't like about, this episode, as well as the last one. They kind of just had the new weapons. Because in the last episode, they didn't have the new weapons. I think Raph may have had, like, the new Sai. And then that was about it. I think Donnie may have had the new sort of laser bow staff. But Mikey, I remember when April was about to get shot by one of the robots, Mikey used, like, his regular, like, when he does the extension thing, he had, like, his regular weapons. He had his regular nunchaku. And then in this episode, he had, like, tonfa with blades on it, like, laser blade tonfas, which were cool. I was like, that's pretty cool, because it's so different. It was kind of weird, but it was actually really sweet. But it was like they just had the new weapons, and, like, Leo had the new, like, laser, Wakizashi, and I was like, why? Like, why did they just pick up these weapons and not even talk about it? Like, they did a big deal in the premiere where they, like, it was like, oh man, we have these new suits and stuff, and in this episode they talk about them a little, like, oh, you won't freeze because the suits create, like, an aura and stuff like that. And they, like, completely brushed over the fact that they just picked up new weapons. Like, they didn't say anything like, we need these new weapons to beat aliens and stuff like that. It was like, nope, they just got them. Like, Leo just has, like, 2 laser blades, basically. Like, they look like they have lasers at the edges. And that's about it. It was like, he had that. Donatello having the new staff, I thought made perfect sense, because especially with it being Donatello, like, oh, he uses it as a piece of technology as well as his weapon. Makes perfect sense. With Leo, it's just blades. With Raph, it's just his Sai. With Mikey, it was a complete switch of weapons, so that was, like, the biggest deal, and they totally brushed over that. Like, that wasn't just like, oh, I don't know how they would have done that, but, like, laser nunchaku, but it was, I felt like they really brushed over that, and they should have talked a lot about it, or at least had a scene. They made a big deal out of the suits themselves. Totally should have been the same thing. Like, they had a scene where Casey talks about new weapons, like he picked up the little laser chucks and stuff like that, but there was nothing else that I remember, at least from the first episode, where they really talked about the weapons and like needing to switch them or why they should switch them going up against certain enemies. It was like, oh, Casey found like hockey pucks that explode, so that combined his weapons together, and then everyone else was like, oh, this new suit is awesome, and that was it. There wasn't anything like, oh, here's some new weapons you guys can use as upgrades. Nothing like that. They just have the new weapons. Leo even has a gun, which I thought was pretty interesting. But, Leo has like a laser gun and, the two laser blades. Mikey completely switched weapons, and I was like, it was just like too much of a switch to not have a scene where they talk about like, man, we're upgrading weapons. It was just like, they got them, and that was it. And I was like, that kind of sucks that they don't even talk about it. Like, I feel like Mikey could have had a perfect scene where he's like, oh, you guys get, space versions of your weapons, and I have to completely switch. I feel like that easily could have been a scene that was kind of funny, but also kind of cool, because he would have said something silly like, but I'm so awesome I could still do it, or whatever. And then there was nothing. It was just like, they have them. That's it. Still, they look pretty cool. Raph's weapons, I think, look even stupider. Like, I never really liked Psy, to be completely honest. But I always thought they looked kind of cool, or at least symmetrical. And now it's like, it has just a little horn on the top. And it's basically, like, if it was just a kunai, because that's what they look like. They're like kunai that have, like, a tiny little thing on them. I was like, that makes them just look stupid. I was like, that makes me like Psy even less. It just makes them look dumb. But, and, like, Donatello's staff, I think, looks weird because it has, like, the little purple tip, which obviously they all have the turtle's colors, so I understand why it's like that, but it's weird. It's only at the end, and then you have, like, Leo's weapon, like, it goes all the way down the blade. I was like, that's the coolest one because it makes the most sense. But, like, with Donatello's, it's like, oh, here's just a little bulb, purple bulb at the end of the staff. And that's about it. Raph's thing, same as Leo's with it's on, like, basically the edge. And then Mikey's, the whole thing is just orange. They're just, like, completely orange blades. But I like the new weapons. I really do like them. I just wish we had a scene, because I feel like that was definitely an opportunity that was missed. Whereas, like, the Turtles are upgrading weapons. Like, we had an episode that was literally devoted to them changing into, like, their forest-based outfits, which, as we saw, didn't really mean that much, because that was in one episode. And I think Raph did it one other time since then, so I don't know. It makes it seem like changes now mean even less, because they did that whole episode. And I was like, they didn't even do a scene. It was just like, got him, that's it. But still enjoyed the episode. That's just something, it really did bother me, as you can tell, since I just did I felt like that was 10 minutes by itself just ranting. But I still love this episode. I love the action. Like I said, it seemed like super violent because I think they seriously, like, specifically destroyed the heads at least 3 times. And it was like, there's one where Mona Lisa saved Raph, and she decapitated one. There's one time, I believe it was Leo, and he basically blew one's head off with the laser pistol and it exploded. And then I think there was another time when someone may have decapitated it, or like just hit it really hard and it broke the head off. But they were like breaking them from the inside. I think Raph may have done that, because one tried to like drop on him, and he basically like broke the whole thing apart or something. So they were like just destroying these things. Like Leo was like slicing them up. They were shooting the heads off, just shooting them, blowing them up, and all sorts of stuff. I was like, man, this. Obviously, they're like alien, rock creatures, but it seemed so incredibly violent to me. It was just like actual decapitations on all these things, and they weren't robots. Like, I know they're aliens, and they're basically like bears almost that can shoot basically like ice out of them, which was very awesome. I thought that was actually really sweet. And they can actually freeze people. But I was like, man, it just seems super violent. And they're just like, which it was. It definitely was. Like, that's how they can get away with it. I don't care, because it looks awesome. But I was just like, man, this is actually kind of violent. They're just like decapitations and shattering. And it's just like, not robots. Technically alien living creatures. But they're fictional creatures, so it's like, it's not like, it's dogs or anything. It's just like random giant rock things. So destroy away. But love the episode. It was great to get introduced to Mona Lisa. It was nice to see the Triceratons at least, have that little introduction in there, so that was cool. Like I said, the action, it was very action-based episode. It was very, action and survival was like the name of the game for this episode, and I certainly loved it. Introduction to Mona Lisa was definitely great. I love the fact that they did speed up that relationship. It was insanely fast, but like I said, I can't hate it because it was like, well, he bonded with her instantly because of how tough she was. And I'm pretty sure that's exactly how it is in the comics. They're both just really tough fighters, and that's kind of how they end up bonding and, becoming a couple. So, makes sense to me. I totally loved it, of course. I want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And because we were introduced to a very famous character from the Ninja Turtles lore, I want to know what you guys think of this iteration of Mona Lisa, as well as how quickly they advanced the relationship between Raph and Lisa. Because for some people, it was probably way too quick, and admittedly, I can see how it's definitely way too fast, because it was just like, oh, he likes her, and then she instantly liked him too. It was just like too easy. But at the same time, for me, I don't mind that, because it's not like they have the deepest relationship, which, like I said, I only know like a little bit, but, it's not exactly the deepest thing ever. Raph is not the deepest person. Like, it's Mikey, and then it's Raph, to be totally honest. That's how it goes. So, it's not, like, insanely jarring or hard to accept or anything, because it makes sense. And you could tell that Mona Lisa was obviously in a similar mindset as Raph, based on just how she acted and stuff, even from the start. So, worked for me, but like I said, I do want to know what you guys thought, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.